and welcome back to my channel. So, Immanuel Kant and his famous 4 questions. And according to Kant, how are the main questions of human existence, of human being and life divided between metaphysics, ethics and religion? So, what does it mean for Kant? What can I know? What should I do? What can I hope for? And what is the human being? What is the man? These 4 questions are the famous Kant Quadrangle. And metaphysics is the teaching of being, especially of the highest being. As you know, metaphysics is what comes after physics, according to Aristotle. And in the Critique of Pure Reason, where the knowledge of the transcendent is called into questions, and Kant constantly uses the concepts of reality and existence, and what can I know directly? Well, our knowledge is possible only from the side of phenomena, but not things in themselves, Dinge an sich auf Deutsch. Kant questions the mystical fanaticism of the hermit and monastic life, and the exaltation of fanaticism, of exaltation of the sanctity of the state of celibacy, which rendered a great number of human beings, of people, useless for life. How the accompanying imaginary miracles kept the people in the heavy fetters of blind superstition and prejudices. This question sounds in these epochs very often, as you know. We can remember, for example, Descartes' questions, and we can also remember comedies of Molière and its very actual theme, very actual subject, the real knowledge and the light of human spirit and mind and possibility of understanding. So, that is, moral education shouldn't begin with blind adherence to dogmas. It's absolutely impossible for Kant. Adherence to a cult, it's not right way for him, and we shouldn't just correct the morals. With the transformation of the way of thinking and the affirmation of character, were it possible to achieve our goals, and that is, according to Kant, necessary. That's why necessary. Act on the root of the problem, on the root of evil, but not just on its consequences. And so, to look for faith only in your own mind and in your own device of moral inclinations is the single way for Kant. And what role does the idea of free will play in Kant's teaching about religion in particular? As I can, if I'm not mistaken, freedom or independence from the coercive arbitrariness of another. Freedom or independence from the coercive arbitrariness of another person is fair, as it is compatible with the freedom of the other people, of each other, in accordance with the universal law, is the only original right of human being, and is inherent in every person. by virtue of his belonging to human race. It's appendix to the introduction to the doctrine of law, and Kant discusses this question about freedom and independence in this work and in many other works. So, freedom is the field of action, the moral law. That is the advantage of a thinking being, as a thinking being who has the autonomy of the will, the free will. Autonomy, that is a kind of self-law, autodidact, I don't know exactly, self-law, self-control maybe. The realization of the desire for the highest good, for holiness, and the later this holiness, yes, sanctity is unattainable, of course, but without freedom, without it, without this sanctity as an idea in our consciousness, the moral law loses its support. So we have to hold this idea in our mind and in our consciousness. According to Kant, the slave secretly hates any law and morality, and therefore hates also. True religiosity is possible only in freedom. True religiosity, true faith, and moral faith according to pure reason. And Kant's concept of religious faith from the epistemological point of view is also rather crucial question, and religious faith is incomprehensible to the understanding. It's a miracle. It's essentially a mystery, and feelings are not knowledge, of course. So they cannot explain this mystery, and we cannot explain our own religiosity and our own feelings of this sanctity. We are given the moral makings, but we are not giving the root of them, the reason for them. Freedom too is inexplicable, of course, and it leads us to sacred mysteries. On the other hand, it leads us to the sacred ideas and to the sacred mysteries. A person can only be aware of this moral self-law, this autodidact autonomy, and the idea of moral world ruler, moral master of this world, striving to fulfill this moral duty and not to penetrate into the basis of this mysterious sphere. It's absolutely impossible for us as for the nature and ended beings, mortal beings. For Kant, the main question of religion is what can or what dare I hope for. It has mentioned in Logic, for example, paragraph 3rd, when I'm not mistaken. So, the essence of metaphysics is the study of pure concepts of the understanding, or ideas that are given to us outside of experience. We cannot explain these roots and these reasons. The idea of God is given to us outside, and the experience and knowledge of sanctity of religious mystery impossible to prove, and existence of God impossible to prove and impossible to give it an objective reality, and we don't need it, actually. Kant draws a parallel with the idea of the universal whole, which exists in the understanding as a regulatory principle. We know this Copernican revolution. and it can be proved only by practical purpose, so based on the moral law. That is, as far as I can understand, the idea of God serves as the ultimate goal for man and for person, for human being, in the performance of his moral duty. It is as if it binds human arbitrariness, or Willkür auf Deutsch, arbitrariness. The concept of faith is separated from opinion. It's not opinion for Kant, since faith has a conviction and recognition of truth on the basis, insufficient of course, refers to objects about which it is impossible not only to know anything, but also to have an opinion and even to assume any probability. The only thing that can be reliable here is that it is not contradictory to think of these objects as they are thought. It's impossible to have an opinion a priori. It's possible only to know something a priori. It serves only as a guess, and knowledge begins with it. Without faith, impossible to have a knowledge, according to Kant. And it's rather logical thing and rather logical prediction. At the same time, the moral grounds are sufficient for the subjective beliefs. Faith is not knowledge, but it is subjective necessity for a practical reason. So, to tell the truth, the Kant's philosophy is supported by the practical use. It's very important for Kant. It's not just sitting around the table, reading books and just speculating about a lot of things, but it's a practice. It's the practical use. So thank you for your attention and see you in the next video. All good to you.